Well, I'm here with the Leslies, and I'm trying to figure out where to start because the obvious question everybody asks it, and I'm going to save it to the end. Who's the better hockey player? But Zac, I'll start this way. Tell me what kind of influence your sister has been on you in the game of hockey. What do you take from watching her, being around her, talking to her about hockey?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is something that's a lot is you see the genuine passion that the women bring to the game and that what she brings to the game. And, what they play for is obviously different. They're at this point, they're playing for their professional lives. They're playing for Olympic opportunities. They're playing for world championship opportunities. And to see the passion that they bring is something that it's impossible to ignore. It's impossible to try and emulate.
And Rebecca, kind of a similar question for you. I am guessing here, but you're younger. So what kind of influence did your brother have on you growing up in the game of hockey?
Yeah, I mean, definitely growing up, I wanted to do everything that he did. We started competing kind of against each other on the outdoor rink. And obviously, as a female hockey player, I had a dream of playing in the Olympics, whereas his dream was NHL. But we both had those dreams and we worked together to achieve them.
So if I got this correct, you guys grew up in Ottawa, right?
Yeah.
So lots of canals, lots of outdoor. Was there lots of family hockey in the Leslie household?
Well, we had an outdoor rink actually in the backyard that Dad made every year. So there was a lot of hockey, and then that brought a lot of friends over and made for a lot of backyard rink games and definitely a lot of late nights in the backyard and the outdoor rink.
Yeah, I mean, we have two younger sisters as well too who love to get out there with us, and so there's always a lot of us on the ice. And one of our sisters played ringette, so we obviously took turns and played a bit of ringette when we could, just to make it fair for her.
So let's establish it. Are there two other young, I mean, one's played some ringette, but are there other young Leslie hockey players coming up behind you too?
We had two. So I'm the oldest, and then Rebecca's younger than me, and then there's two younger sisters, younger than Rebecca. One played ringette right through her minor ringette or right through her high school days, and the other one played minor hockey, but now they're both pursuing more academic goals, I guess you'd say.
Oh, okay. So who got the short end of it growing up? Who didn't get your parents' attention? Because there's a lot of rinks to be at and a lot of equipment to buy. Who kind of got the short end of it here?
I mean, I definitely think that Zac and I were both really lucky to have parents who were really involved and either were coaching us or were taking us to practice. We definitely had kind of a shuttle system, and we relied on both parents, but also friends and family to help us out and get to all the events with the four of us. For the most part of our young childhood playing competitive sports, we were always on the road. So most weeknights we were either at a rink ourselves and then at another rink watching a sibling or
right.
I really wonder how our parents did it sometimes, considering there'd be 4 rinks to go to in about a 3-hour time frame. So I think we relied on a lot of friends, and obviously Dad coached a lot. So he probably coached all of us at one point in time at a different level. So
yeah, that
obviously was a factor because he made sure to get the chance to coach all of us. And I think that was important to him to get to be behind the bench. And as I got older, I think he was forced to, at least we didn't have any parent coaches after the ages of 12 or something like that. So there was a lot more time. He had a lot more time to watch me, a lot more time to coach the girls. So I think that was something that changed more. So as we got older, I think we all had our opportunities to have both of our parents around to watch us and to coach us.
Yeah.
So Rebecca, let me ask you that. Tell me a little bit about your dad and his influence. I am asking you about your brother, but tell me about the influence of your dad.
Yeah, I think our dad's really passionate about hockey. He is a really big fan of the game. He always made an outdoor rink, like you mentioned, every year. Always was shoveling it off and teaching us. And, he was taking us to the early morning sessions before school and stuff like that. And he grew up with playing hockey, but obviously not at the highest level. So I think he really wanted us to achieve all the dreams that we could through hockey. And he was one of our first coaches. So he had a huge influence on our careers.
Zac, what about you? What do you take away from your dad and his influence?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, for someone that didn't play the game at necessarily the highest level, he's a very keen eye and I would say a very high hockey IQ and a lot of knowledge of the game. He spent, his adult years coaching us and his adult years coaching and all the time around the rink. He was really, our first coach. And I think to this day, Rebecca would say the same thing. He still is kind of that coach and that we have. And I think as we got older and Rebecca would probably attest to as well, is it did switch a bit from as we go older from the dad to, or from the coach to more so, just being the support system that we needed, obviously, as we get older. And as I became a professional, as Rebecca went through university, he knew that at the same time we had enough coaches, in our ear, that at that time we just needed, the dad support. I think he was great at being able to shift from the coach, and then became the support when we needed him. He was the coach when we needed him when we were younger. And then as we got older, he became that support system for us.
We've already established it's a hockey household with some ringette thrown in, but did you guys play other sports growing up too?
Yeah, I played competitive soccer growing up, all through high school. Even I, at one point, had to kind of decide between hockey and soccer. I was playing on a pretty competitive soccer team, and they wanted me to train all winter also. So at that point, I kind of had to pick between soccer and hockey, and ultimately chose hockey. But yeah, I had a lot of fun playing soccer. We were involved in all sorts of sports. I mean, I think that in elementary school, middle school, we were on probably every single team possible, or trying out at least. And our siblings were the same too. So there was always a Leslie involved in some sort of sporting team.
How about you, Zach? What did you play growing up?
I was the same. I played a lot of baseball. And then actually we have a pretty good, I don't know how, like a golf tour, you would say, I guess, throughout Ottawa that I played in as a kid. I spent a lot of time. Golf is still another big passion of mine now. And I think I spent a lot of time as a kid at the golf course, and I actually played in, we had a little tour that me and, 10 of my buddies would play in, where you play 5 or 6 courses throughout Ottawa against all the juniors in your age level. And that was something that was a lot of fun pretty much right up until I went to junior. Obviously I still spent some time at the golf course in the summers, but growing up, I played about every sport you could think of. I think that was something that, hockey became our passion, but it was definitely not something that was pushed on us by any means. It was, we were given the opportunity, which we were all very fortunate of, given the opportunity to play whatever sport we wanted to. I spent a year playing organized football as a kid. I played baseball. Soccer was one that I actually never got into with the girls. The girls played soccer, and so we were given every opportunity to play whatever sport we wanted. And in the end, I think Dad was probably pretty happy we played hockey. But yeah, like I said, we could have played whatever sport we wanted. It was just naturally we drifted towards hockey.
So Zach, I'll stay with you. When did you make the decision you were going to pursue hockey? When did hockey become the path for you?
I think for us and for me, hockey was more or less just something we did. I never thought of it as this was a job. This was, this is going to be my job. But this right up until I went to the OHL did I just really enjoy playing hockey, and knew that if I was good at it and if I continued to work at it, it would bring me, some rewards. But at the end of the day, I don't think I was, had the mindset like, oh, I need to become an NHL hockey player. I think I really enjoyed playing hockey. It worked. And obviously my dream was to become an NHL hockey player. At the end of the day, I found hockey to be a passion of mine. And I think I still to this day believe it to be. I think it's what makes going to the rink so easy and so much fun, is that I see hockey as a passion. But obviously, when I became 16 and had to make the decision between the NCAA or the OHL, ultimately I chose to go to the OHL. And at that point in time, making that decision, that's when hockey turns into, that's when it becomes a career, and it becomes, what decision I make, it becomes the decision I made to become a professional. I think at that point, that's when it really turns into, okay, it's
right.
Full go now.
So Rebecca, I'm kind of curious, you're watching, and maybe at the time you're not, realizing it, but, just the process that your brother went through to decide, because that is a decision on, at least on the men's side, which path are you going through? Were you paying any attention to that? Because you would eventually go the NCAA route, but, watching Zach on his journey, was that influencing you at all on yours?
Yeah, someone recently asked me when I kind of saw that Zach was going to have a career in hockey, and when I kind of noticed that he could actually make a living out of it. And I think that so he was probably 16. I was probably just getting into high school, and that's kind of when the recruiting process began for me. And obviously, as a female hockey player, the options aren't the same, but there still are options, and there are a lot of great options. So I weighed my options between Canadian universities and American universities, and ultimately decided to go to BU. But definitely, I think living in Ontario and growing up in Ottawa, we all we knew was the OHL, and we grew up going to the 67s games. And I think Zach, as a young hockey player coming from Ottawa, that was one of his main dreams. And I think that The NCAA was maybe a route that we didn't really know that much about. So I think that by the time I came around, and it's definitely way more, it's a route that's pushed for the female game, right? So we knew a lot about it. We knew there was like sessions for the families, there was recruiting, like we understood the process. And I think that definitely Zac going through that process kind of opened my parents' eyes to the possibilities of where I could go after high school.
So what was recruitment like for you by BU?
It was, I would say, definitely an easy process for me. I definitely took my time with it. I know I hear like crazy stories of girls committing when they're in 8th grade or 7th grade or verbally committing. And I was lucky enough that I was able to kind of wait it out and weighed my options. And I didn't commit until really late. I was actually in my grade 12 year when I committed to BU. I just waited it out. I figured that the options would be there. So I just wanted to make sure that I took my official visits and I saw the universities and the campuses for what they were. And yeah, I took a trip to Boston. I had a recruiting trip for a weekend. I went to a couple different schools. And as soon as I got to Boston and BU, like I knew it was the school for me. The coach, Coach DeRocher, was just such a nice guy. And I knew I'd get a great combination of athletics and academics. So yeah, Boston was an easy choice for me.